Just 2 years after the first Lethal Weapon film, we get the sequel, Lethal Weapon 2. Now, Shane Black, who is one of my favourite writers, he wrote the first film, but he didn't write the screenplay for this. However, he did have input on the story. Jeffrey Boam wrote the script, and this guy is, he's no outcast when it comes to writing. He's written some pretty decent films. He wrote The Dead Zone, which is one of my favourite Stephen King adaptations. And he also wrote Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which is arguably one of the best Indiana Jones films. So, good credentials, really, for the writing. And I think it shows, because for me, personally, bearing in mind, like I say, just how big of a Shane Black fan I am, I still think this is better than the first film. Now, I think a case can be made for the first film being better, but either way, if someone said they preferred this more, I wouldn't argue with it. What I think this film does particularly well is tying up certain loose ends from the first one, namely Riggs's wife. His wife died in this accident, this car accident, or so he believed. And here we learn, obviously, that wasn't the case. And the bad guy in this, I think, really adds a bit more personal weight to Riggs's character, to the story, giving him this motive, this reason to really go after him. Now, I actually think the villains in this all round are better than the villains in the first one. I know a lot of people really dig Gary Busey's main villain in the first film. I always saw him as a bit of a thug, really. He never really impressed me on that level, although he's still a cracking villain, someone who can have a good fight with Riggs. Here, I feel there's more of a personal kind of thing between Riggs and this dude. So that, for me, keeps me a bit more invested. The action is really upped as well in this. There's a lot more action in this. Right from the get-go, the opening scene, we have this big car chase that seems to go on for quite a while. And because we don't need to get to know these characters this time around, they can just get straight into the banter, which, as I say, is pretty decent, even though Shane Black isn't writing the dialogue. I think Jeffrey Boam does a really good job of making these characters sound like the characters from the first film, which is quite a hard thing to do when you have such a distinctive voice writing that original. You can recognise Shane Black dialogue anywhere, in the same way that you can recognise, say, Aaron Sorkin's dialogue. So, yeah, to be able to mimic that in a way that doesn't feel like it's mimicking, but actually feels fresh, point scored, I'd say. We also get the addition of Joe Pesci's Leo Getz, who I think is a great addition to this cast of characters. He really lends some levity to the situation, and it helps by the fact he's being played by Joe Pesci, who really is a bit of a chameleon. He can be absolutely terrifying, as he is in Goodfellas, or he can be really comic and sympathetic, as he is here. He gets quite bullied, I think, actually, in this film. Riggs and Murtaugh, at times, the way they treat him, I really do sympathise with him. And I kind of turn against Riggs and Murtaugh when they're doing that. Well, particularly Riggs. Murtaugh, not so much. He's a bit more of a seasoned professional, shall we say. He's less likely to have a dig, although he does get involved. But yeah, I sympathise for his character during those moments. And by the end of the film, when he's gone through everything he's gone through, you really do feel like, yeah, he deserves their friendship after everything he goes through for them. The weakest link, I would say, is Patsy Kensit, who, let's face it, didn't go on to have a stellar film career after this. I think they were probably hoping she would, but yeah, she didn't prove herself as the finest actress, but she doesn't embarrass herself either. I just feel like a dozen other actresses would have been much better suited in this role. It's a bit of a thankless role given what happens to her, but I'd say she does enough. Thankfully, this role is kind of, as I say, it's pretty short. There's not much screen time devoted to it, but it does give Riggs's character a lot of impetus for for some of the things he needs to do later on. So yeah, it sets up that quite nicely. Richard Donner's direction, again, as with the first one, is spot on, proving himself to be one of the best action directors of the 80s and 70s, obviously with Superman just at the end of that decade. So yeah, really underrated director in my mind. I love this film. I like the more personal element in it with regards to the bad guys. I like the fact that the action is ramped up a lot more. And I just love that we get to have fun with these characters. So I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10. I have to. I gave the first one a 10 out of 10, a 5 out of 5, I should say. I'm going back to my old score rating system there. But yeah, 5 out of 5. If that's what I gave the first one, I think this film is probably marginally better. Like I say, you can argue a case either way. So yeah, I have to give this a 5. Really great action film. So if you've seen this film, I'd like to know what you thought about it. So comment below and let me know. And until next time, thanks for watching.